Assalamu alaikum. Suleiman Raheem here. Let's slay some demons. Let me fix something right here real quick. Okay, I'm good with that. Sisters and brothers and sisters, I've been working this quite a long time. What I intend to accomplish here is to take and map the Injil or Farad's his teachings on history the last 50,000 years into the Injil. Now the Injil itself in Revelations actually only goes back 2,000 years. But the Bible itself goes back over 50,000 years. And you have to really study the Bible to get all that understanding of history going back 50,000 years. That gets into Abrahamic covenant and things like that. Now, this is not a very detailed presentation. It's general. It's meant to be general. Just give you a basic understanding of the last 50,000 years and how the Injil and the teachings of Farad are consistent. It supports Farad's teachings on the last 50,000 years of our history, starting from Dr. SHABAZZ. So that's what we intend to do here. So it's not meant to be a very detailed historical speech or presentation. It may be general, but it's to show you to connect what the Bible says and what Farad says. So it's confirmed Farad's teaching on our history, our 50,000 years history. So with that, we'll proceed. Now, before we go into the actual presentation, we see all the things happening around us now. We see America's totally falling apart. It should be obvious to anyone who can see it. They're being hit from every aspect. All institutions are being tested, are under stress, from education to politics to financial to military to health, whatever. Totally under stress means totally under pressure. So the question is, will it survive? Will it survive that pressure? They've never seen this much pressure. The weather, they're getting extreme weather. See, when normally a nation doesn't die like a person just died. It's because it's like the Soviet Union died. The people are still there. So the whole institution, all the structures and everything's, right? That's one way. Starts coming apart. That's what happened in ancient Rome. It didn't just collapse overnight. The structures start breaking, deforming and cracking until the whole empire broke down. That's what you're witnessing. So European countries only had 6,000 years. That's YACOB's creation. 6,000 years. What does that mean? That means they were born with an expiration date. That's just not something somebody said, we don't give them 6,000 years. No, because they knew that after 6,000 years, as the pressure is increasing, because now we're in a compression phase of the universe is contracting, and as it contracts, it means the pressure increases, that they would not be able to stand the pressure of a contracted universe beyond 6,000 years. See? And that's what that's all about. Not able to do that. See? So that's what you see now. The pressure is overcoming them. And when pressure comes from every aspect. When you're under pressure, that means your whole system, your whole body, your whole existence is under pressure. So that's what's happening. That's under pressure in every aspect of the society. This weather, health, everything. Plagues, they've been ravaged. And this just gets worse. I told you 2020 will come with a plague. 2021 will come in with insurrection. They have social, you see the social conflict in America is worse than ever been. They said almost nearly as much as so-called civil war. Everyone's after everyone. And I've talked about this. We're trying to put a black face in the situation because the whole idea is to get rid of us. But that's not something I'm going to really talk about here. But that's what it's all about. So, and then there's the situation, like we have to understand our people. We have our people in very great distress like in Texas, for instance. Okay, what's happening there? Well, some people say, well, they deserve it. Well, we all have to face the consequence of our actions. See? And they're facing the consequence of their actions. We all are facing the consequence of our actions. That's just where the universe works. No one escapes the consequence of their actions. See? So, there's such thing as mercy. We have to understand what mercy is. See? It's not that you escape the consequence. That's no more science I'm going to now. But basically, what happens is mercy. It just gives you time. It's just mercy is just the function of giving you more time to correct your actions. So in other words, if you do something and the consequence immediately, then there's no mercy there. But if the consequence isn't realized, say for instance, you do something and now as a result of what you're doing, you start cultivating a tumor. Okay? And at some point in time, at the rate you're cultivating it, it will kill you in maybe 10 years. By the time you find out, right, it's terminal. But say midstream in 5 years, you decide, hey, I'm gonna change my attitude. I'm gonna, repent and start changing the way I live and start ripping off people, whatever you're doing. Now you don't even realize you have this tumor, but now the tumor starts going away because you reversed what you're doing. So you never even know you even had it. That's mercy. That's what mercy is. You had time to change. Because how can you say have mercy if it's immediate? There's a situation where you die immediately from the consequence of what you did. You kill somebody, then you die in the process. So mercy is a function of time. So anyway, that's in general. We can talk about that more in detail in another presentation. But there's no mercy for these people. It's mathematics. If a water boils at 212 degrees Fahrenheit, when it reaches 212 degrees Fahrenheit, it's going to boil. There's nothing you can do about it. There's no mystery God, anything that's going to change that unless you just turn the fire off. But the pressure is increasing. The pressure is not going to stop increasing. And the thing is, they cannot withstand the pressure, more than 6,000 years of pressure. And so now they're collapsing under the pressure. So you can list the foolish people like Farrakhan and people because he's collapsing under it also. See? He's hoping that somehow they can stop it. They can't. The universe, you can't stop the universe from contracting. Understand that. So that's what's going on now. So we see our people, right? A lot of our people are impacted by these things because they made bad decisions. They didn't listen, right? We're in hell here. They didn't listen, made bad decisions because they don't know any better. And so we can just disregard them and say, hey, well, they made bad decisions. No, that's the whole purpose of Farad coming here. That's the whole purpose of Elijah Muhammad. That's the whole purpose of Suleiman coming, right? That it says he would save his people from sin. See, because they're erring. Why? They're not erring because there's something wrong with them. They're sinful. Erring because they got slave masters software. They've been trained to act that way. That's why they make mistakes. So yeah, they deserve what they get because they made mistakes. But the point is that they didn't make mistakes because it's their nature, because they was taught wrong. They don't know any better. See, so we can say, yeah, well, see, you over there suffering because you didn't listen or whatever. Yes, that's true. But also it's true that, yeah, that's not your fault that you're doing that because that's where you was taught, we understand. But so it's our job is to get you to think right, correct, so you don't make those bad mistakes anymore. See, so yeah, there's two ways to look at that situation. There's the fact of it, this situation, that's the mathematics, and what you're going to do about it. The facts of the situation, what you're going to do about it. You say, yeah, well, yeah, that's the reason why you're in that situation. Okay, that's the fact. Now, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to sit and help the brother and sister so they can straighten their situation out so they can stop doing that? Or are you going to sit back and say, yeah, man. See, so it's two ways to look at it. You identify it. You have to identify a problem before you can solve the problem. So you identify the problem, now what you're going to do about it. One's a noun, one's a verb. Understand? So yeah, our people, that's why it says it's going to take the four winds to raise our people up, because they make all these mistakes because they don't know any better. When you know better, you do better. So we have to make sure they know better. That's why it says we have to teach them. But they're not listening now. But they're starting to listen, because I've mentioned that before. I says they're going to have to be snatched away, right? Their grip on America has to be broken. Now 2020 helped break it, right? With all the closed shuts down and everything else, right? And losing jobs and everything else. So all of a sudden, the American dream is turning into a nightmare. And now with this situation in Texas and all over, and all the bad weather, right? That's further breaking their grip. That's why I said we have to break their grip. It says, like the Quran says, Allah will lift you up, but you cling to the earth. So we have to break their grip. And that's part of what's happening in Texas, is breaking their grip. See? So once their grip is broken, you understand? Then they'll listen. That's why I said the four winds. Four winds is the final process to break their grip on America, because that's what America's doing, right? It's giving delusions and things, right? See, because dissatisfaction brings about change. But if people are not dissatisfied, they're not going to listen to a change. Why would they want to change, not dissatisfied? So now they become increasingly dissatisfied. So we have to listen, follow the process. So yeah, we can call it. That's mathematics. That's a fact, right? Then the people that's in those situations, they're in situations because of bad decisions. That's the mathematical fact. That's consequence. That's consequence of their decisions. See, that's a mathematical fact. Anyone says it is totally correct, right? But the idea is, what are we going to do about it? Those are our people. So we're going to correct their bad decisions, get them the correct mind. Because it says that's what Joshua had to do, or Jesus had to do. He had to give them their mind back. Then they wouldn't make those bad decisions anymore. Because it's not their nature to make bad decisions, but they got the bad software. Okay. So I hope you understand that, brothers and sisters. See, we're here to save our people. That's why it says he came to deliver his people, save his people from sin, right? Not that they're sinful, but they've been, it's like you go and clean up somebody says, well, I'm going to clean these people up, right? Because, they've been in a cesspool, right? That means they something wrong with them. They're in the cesspools. They're going to be dirty. So if you come in with full of soap and clean them up, they're good to go. All they need is a bath for a shower. That's all our people need. Nothing wrong with our people. Our people are beautiful. That's what Farah said. That's what Light Muhammad said. That's what I'm saying. That ain't what Farrakhan said because he's one of them. See? So what are we going to do about it? We see him in that situation, so we're going to leave him in that situation? No. Now, because this is opportunity, right, to help them break that grip that they have on this country. And when we do that, we have to make sure that they understand where the help is coming from. See? Because Satan will take credit. Oh man, well, you went out to help them, right? And yeah, well, Jesus did it. Well, man, there's no Jesus around here. So we have to make sure they understand where help is coming from. See? Because you're trying to get them to see correctly. Okay, let's move on, brothers and sisters. Now we're going back 50,000 years. 50,000 years ago, there was 3 tribes. There was the tribe of SHABAZZ, right? The tribe of Dr. BUDDAH, right? And that's incorrect there. I am going to correct that. I've been working a long time, and right away I get an error. Right away. Let's fix this. Let's fix this. Okay, there you go. There you go. There you go. Okay. Okay. 50,000 years ago, see, there was this tribe of SHABAZZ led by Dr. SHABAZZ. There was 2 other tribes. They're all original. They're all original. But one lived in what we call Africa now. One dwelt in what we call Arabia now, which is North Africa, and one tribe dwelled in like the Hindu Kush area, where we refer to like India, that area, Afghanistan, and they live in that area. Those 3 tribes, all original. See? So the Bible calls the African tribe called the Levites. See? And what we call right now, called Hindus. That was the tribe that lived up in the Hindu, right? See, that was a tribe, right? And Shabazz, we lived in Arabia. So we was the center. We was the center between both. We was the ruling tribe. See, because we had the Holy Land, which was Mecca and everything is. We were the center, the best part of planet Earth. We was the center tribe, right? Between the two. We was the lead tribe. Dr. Shabazz was the leader, the top scientist at the time. Okay, 50,000 years ago. Those are three groups, all original, right? But tribe of Shabazz is, because the other two tribes came from the tribe of Shabazz, but they're all original. See, because originally, beginning, there was just one tribe, tribe of Shabazz, right? There's other two tribes, the original, but they came from tribe of Shabazz, right? As it spread out, okay? Well, let's go back to 50,000 years. Now, 50,000 years ago, they had a meeting. As Farad tells us, Dr. Shabazz had to meet with other tribes because we knew we was going through a period of energy deprivation that was going to last 6,000 years. That's the point between, that's the phase between the contraction, the expansion of the universe and the contraction of the universe. The universe expands and contracts without end. It expands and it contracts, expands and contracts, expands and contracts without end. It's always done, always will do it. But its contraction cycle, right? We was in a contraction cycle, we was in an expansion cycle, and then the transition between the expansion cycle and contraction cycle takes 6,000 years. But that's at the time when the universe is totally expanded. That means that all the energy you see out there, right, used to be here, as the Quran tells you. The earth and the heavens were one. That means all the energy you see out there used to be the atmosphere of the earth. So, oh man, how can that be? Well, KV tells you that the whole universe was the size of an atom and then it exploded. So if you can believe that, you can believe it's definitely, it was the size of the atmosphere of the earth anyway. So it expanded. So all that energy was out there. So when the earth universe is fully expanded, that means there's less energy here. So that means we're through a period of energy deprivation. We didn't have enough energy to maintain ourselves, right? And didn't have enough energy to maintain civilization. So that's what it means by period of energy deprivation. And that's a 6,000 year period in transition between the expansion cycle and the contraction cycle. In the contraction cycle, everything's pressure increases. Like the Quran says, it's momentous in the heavens and the earth, but it comes to your sun. It means you get these energy waves. As the universe contracts, comes back in energy waves approximately 50 years, right? And when it's expanding, it's just doing the opposite. See? And it's just going away. So it's coming back. So it's coming back. That means there's increased pressure on the earth. That means as pressure increases, right, then you have to be able to withstand the pressure anyway. So they had a meeting. They says, okay, we're going to period of energy deprivation. How should we do? How should we deal with it? So they agreed that they was going to let this person's, right, called Dr. YACOB come along during that specific time frame, 6,000 years, right? Let him come along because he would produce a civilization, right? Because he would be a stripped down version of us. Make Mishma shed blood, he'd be weak. But he wouldn't require as much energy to maintain itself. So he could have enough energy to have a civilization. So they agreed that it would be better, right, to have a bad civilization than no civilization. Like bad water is better than no water. So they agreed on that. But how to deal with him when he came along, they disagreed. They disagreed. See? So each one went their way, how to deal with it. Like we see the Hindus, part of that tribe, right? They knew it was going to be a 6,000 year period. So they said, hey, they decided to come over here where we are in America. That's so-called American Indians. So they would have to be, they have 5,500 years, they would have to even deal with Dr. YACOB. They have to deal with these people. They would hide over the other side of the earth, right? And they would have to deal with him the last 500 years. That's their solution, right? See? Some of them decided to mix in. They had all kinds of solutions. Dr. Shabazz says, no, I'm going to take my tribe, right? And we're going to make it, we're going to make ourselves strong as possible to deal with this situation. We know we're going to suffer, but we're going to sacrifice for the sake of the other tribes, right? So it take the pressure off of you, right? With this doctor, with this when Dr. Yacob coming along with this creation, right? Take the pressure off you. But the agreement is that when it's all over, we return and we get the best part of planet Earth. We come back to our original position. See, we're gonna go from our original position and sacrifice, right? And help you all make sure, help everyone, all the tribes. But we're gonna return to our original position at the end. Everybody agreed with that. They didn't agree with his what he wanted to do because he said make yourself the strongest. They said no, we don't want to do that, right? But they said okay, we'll do that. But in the process of doing that, we're gonna have to sacrifice a large part, our tribe. Outside, we're gonna be devastated. We're gonna suffer a lot of stuff. But at the end, everybody agreed we're gonna come back and we're gonna get where we be back to our original position. That was the agreement. That's the so-called Abrahamic covenant. Okay? Okay, that's what that is. So this is what it was. That's the agreement. Okay. Then we're going to move ahead to 35,000 years ago, 15,000 years later. 15,000 years later, right? They've already made preparations, right, for Dr. Yacob coming along, right? And they got rid of most industry, all this stuff, because they didn't want them to have that kind of power. So they moved a lot of stuff off planet, right? Because we put all that, you see all the universe out there, we put that stuff out there. We took formlessness, energy, form, and we took and gave form to it. Energy just has no form. But we gave form to it. We made stars and planets, and we put all this stuff out there. That's why the Quran says, it'd be a garden as wide as the heavens and the earth, right? And it wouldn't be a garden if we couldn't get out there. So all that stuff was hidden or moved off the planet, whatever. So 35,000 years later, right, all that stuff is gone, pretty much all gone. So then here comes Dr. Buddha, and he says, first of all, he don't want to honor that agreement because now they're in charge. See, because Dr. SHABAZZ has moved into Africa. See, he's been partially pushed out by the Hindus because they started betraying us right there because Elijah Muhammad said, Farah says they were our first enemy, Buddhism. So they pushed us out. Into Africa, out of Arabia. And they took over Arabia, right? And so now they're the chief tribe and they want to maintain, they want to stay the chief tribe. And so they turned on us. See? And the way to make sure they maintain control, they had to separate, because they knew we are the creators, Dr. SHABAZZ, we are the original. We're all original, but we are the original, which everybody came from. And to separate us from our creation. Because mathematics there was no religion back then. There was no religion. Mathematics was a reality. Everybody understood that. It was no religion. It was just mathematics. See? So that's the first religion that came along, because religion is something that you can't prove. It's based on, it's a matrix. It's a belief matrix. In other words, you believe or you have faith in it, but you can't prove it. And that's what Dr. SHABAZZ did. He came on with Buddhism, right? See, he separated the creator from the creation. So he started this philosophy, Buddhism, where it had no mathematical background, no mathematical basis to it, right? This philosophy, because that's our power, right, is our mathematical thinking. So now he decided to change that. Stop thinking mathematical. That gave them control. Separate the creator from the creation. So that's what started Buddhism. It was first, but like Farah said, that was the first enemy of Islam. First enemy was Islam. Islam is mathematics, Islam. First enemy to mathematics. That's another way of saying it. So that was it. And the Hindus, right, that was his tribe. So that's, again, Buddhism, Hinduism. Some people call it Hinduism, but Hinduism was the name of the tribe. See? So that's what happened. So that's what he started this. So now the this pissed off the tribe of the Levites. This pissed them off because now that we was moved into Africa, we became the chief tribe in Africa, so we kind of like superseded the power of the Levites because that was their territory. Remember, they had control. They was ruling Africa. So now we was there, and we're stronger than them. So now we was ruling Africa. We pushed out of Arabia. So they was pissed off because they was pushed back. And they wanted revenge. This 35,000 years ago. Keep that in mind. So Buddhism, we're in Africa now. We pushed out Arabia. Because the whole story about Abraham, right? When he came along, all the people was worshiping Hinduism, idols and things. See, in Arabia, that's when Prophet Muhammad came along, right? They was already in the Hinduism. They was worshiping idols and all that kind of stuff. He had to clean all stuff out because the Hindus controlled Arabia and that middle. They control all that area, and we was pushed out in Africa. See, in fact, the house of Saud right now, they're Hindus. That's another story. They pretend to be Arabs. Okay, pretend to be Muslims. Okay, so that's what happened 35,000 years ago. Right. So it set the scene for they're the first enemy of Islam. Right now, you got Levites and tribe SHABAZZ. They're forced in Africa, and the Hindus they're controlling what we call Arabia, the Middle East, all that area. The Mecca, all of that. Okay. Then 6,000 years ago comes Dr. SHABAZZ. Dr. YACOB. See, he's the leader now. Right? He rises, he's a scientist. This is the time of energy deprivation. See? And he's pissed off because his tribe has been pushed down and under control of all the other tribes. He's pissed off. He wants a little revenge. That's part of his motivation. Right? So he comes along and says, okay, I'm going to make another tribe. And this tribe is going to be like my hammer to hammer the other tribes. That's why the Bible says they were used as a hammer. Talking about the Chaldeans. Chaldeans is what the Bible calls Caucasians. When you read Chaldeans, they talk about Caucasians. So that's something you might want to remember. Chaldeans, the Caucasians, what the Bible calls them. So he makes his fourth tribe. There's only 3 tribes. He makes his fourth tribe. They're different because they're grafted process, right? He made them as a grafted process. They're weaker and everything, right? See, but they can rule because they don't require as much energy to maintain themselves. And all the energy that was available, we required to maintain ourselves. So there wasn't enough energy to maintain civilization, right? So that's energy deprivation. But they would be able to rule because they didn't need that much, right? See, so he made this 6,000 years ago. And you see, that's why he manipulated genes. See? He manipulated genes. See? That's the grafting. See? So it made a genetic version of us was recessive. And so therefore, because you have 2 sides of the brain, you have the dominant and the recessive side, the dominant and the subordinate side. The dominant side is the spatial side, subordinate side is the analytical side. So his creation would be analytically or left-handed, right? While we spatial right-handed, right? See? So they would be, right, in conflict with us. See? Because what Dr. SHABAZZ had done, he has emphasized the spatial. So by the time Dr. YACOB came along, right? So pretty much Dr. YACOB did the same thing Dr. SHABAZZ, just opposite. They used a violent method to do it, right? And he did it took 50,000 years, right, to go through the process. Well, not 44,000 years go through the process to make us, right, spatial orientated. Because you got 2 sides of the brain, the spatial side and the oriental and the analytical side. So he wanted Dr. SHABAZZ wanted to make us more space, because space is the dominant side, is the creative side, right? The analytical side is the technical side. See? So he wanted to make, and when we go into the new creation, right? He wanted us to be more creative than we ever was. Since our whole brain is mostly creative now, instead of just half of it. See, but the technical side, they'd be almost all technical, right? So that'd be very, very more creative than we ever been, and more technical than ever been. See, but the technical is kept in check by the spatial. So that was one of the issues, that problems we would have. So I'm not going to go into all details about that. See, because the technical is rebellious by nature. See? So it needs a spatial side brain to keep it in check. So that's what's happening with that. So okay, that's pretty much enough of that. So that's what he did. He produced that. So, and that's what we call nowadays the Europeans or the Caucasians, right? 6,000 years ago, this process it took 600 years to complete the process. That's why the Quran says they was created in haste. But it took 44,000 years to complete the process that Dr. SHABAZZ had put into motion. Okay, so now at this point in time, you had two. You had the group that was highly spatial. You had a group that was highly technical. Then you had those still in between that didn't take part of that process. See, that would be the Levites and the Hindus. They didn't take part of that process. So they were still ambidextrous, right? They still had two sides of the brain. They wasn't highly technical, it wasn't highly spatial, just as they had been before. But we was, right, more dramatic. See? So, and that gets into the B and it is, because the B comes from the spatial side, but you need the technical side to bring it into existence. See, the spatial side comes with the idea, but you need the technical side to bring it into existence. So keep that in mind. Anyway, so there's good in this process. But that wasn't the reason why Dr. YACOB did it. He was getting revenge. So he produced them 6,000 years ago. Okay, let's move on. So in the process of doing that, something else occurred. Because in doing this, is a grafting process. And by taking, when you have a person have children, some are lighter or weaker than others, right? So you take and make the weaker ones and the lighter ones. You keep doing that process till you get lighter and lighter and lighter and lighter until eventually you get, right, to where you're trying to get. But Dr. YACOB didn't live the 600 years. He put this plan in motion, right? And the plan didn't take place in Arabia, it took place off the coast of Arabia. But so his technicians, right, that survived that as 600 years, right? They had to know when to stop the process. So they knew to keep going until you got to beings that weren't viably human anymore. In other words, when the genetic structure started breaking down, because what you're doing is weakening the genetic structure. You're weakening your genetic structure. But when you get to the point where it starts breaking down, then you gotta stop, because now they're technically not human, right? They don't have the, so you can't, there's no use, because they had to build civilization, they had to be intelligent and everything, right? So that's what happened. They kept on. So after 600 years, right, that's when it started breaking down. Genetic structure started breaking down. They started producing children, right, that their genetic structure was unstable. And that's what's called this Down syndrome, because instead of having the normal chromosome for a human is 20 pairs. But now you had one had extra chromosome. So it was unstable, right? And this, to now they call it Down syndrome. See? So when they start producing that, they say, hey, that's when we stop. That's how I knew when to stop. Not when they produce one, when they start producing a lot. Because if you produce one, I mean, it may just be an anomaly. But once a lot of them start being produced, they stop. So now they had a choice of what to do with these people. They got what they wanted, but now you got this, like, this after effect, right? So what to do with these people? So either get rid of them, kill them all, right? Or find something to do with them. So what they decided to do is to take them and move them as far north, not far north, but as the remotest part of Asia, the remotest part of Asia. See, that's what they decided to do. See, which we call the steppe or Mongolia. So they decided to move them there. So their intelligence level was limited, probably sixth, seventh grade, 5, 6, 7th grade, 7. So they couldn't teach them right high level civilization. So they had to teach them picture language. See, picture language, like that's what children learn at that age. Picture language, right? They couldn't manufacture, right? So they had to show them how to use natural things, like for eating. You can't manufacture forks and things. So they told them how to put two sticks together, like like chopsticks, right? And and use plant material to make something to cover their head, defend them from the heat, right? Simple farming, rice farming. You just stump it. You see, simple thing. They can't hunt because they don't have weapons and things. They can't manufacture things. So they give them domesticated animals, dogs. See, so they can eat them. That's pretty much what they did. And so, that they moved them up there away from all other civilizations because they couldn't, they'd be exploited by any other civilization, went far away as possible. As far away in Asia, not to Europe, into Asia, as far away as possible. That's what they call the steppe. See, that's Mongolia. They used to call them Mongoloids. They call them Mongoloids for a reason. Look it up. They call so-called retarded people or people that's now they call them mentally challenged, all that kind of stuff. And when I was a child, they call them Mongoloid. So why was they called them Mongoloid? Because they all look alike, and they look like what? Mongols. That's how that came about. So Dr. YACOB started out to create another, but in the process, he created 2 tribes. See, Caucasian tribe and the Mongoloid tribe. See, okay? That's how that happened. And they're not original. Neither one of those original. See, they're grafted tribes. Okay? So, the Caucasian tribes were accepted back in Arabia, well, in that area. They came back in after when they came into existence. But they proved so problematic and everything, they was forced out. Forced out into Europe. See? Forced out in Europe, which was pretty a barren place. Hardly anyone lived there. It's not as fertile as the rest of the planet, right? It hasn't the resources of the rest of the planet. It's not as rich. It's not anywhere near as rich as Africa, right? So it's pushed up there, pushed out. So now you had the Mongoloids up in the steppe, and you had the Caucasian in Europe, locked up in Europe. See, now the people knew what the whole deal behind Dr. YACOB's creation, so they didn't dare teach them civilization. They didn't teach them civilization. See, the whole idea is they knew what they was going to do, and to keep them from doing it as long as possible. So they pushed them up there and ended up pushing them up there for 2,000 years in the caves. So they went wild, caveman, because they didn't allow them to take any. They didn't do like they did with the Mongoloids, give them basic civilization. They gave them nothing, just pushed them up there. Okay. So they became totally uncivilized in the caves and hills of Europe for 2,000 years. They lost 2,000 years of their history because they were supposed to, YACOB intended to give them 6,000 years to rule. They lost 2,000 years. So they pushed them up there and say, we hold them back as far as possible. See, so that's what happened. So they ended up in Europe for 2,000 years. Okay? So during this time, we got a period of race mixing, if you will. See, remember the Mongoloids, low IQ, right? See, but what we had was we had the Levites, right? Remember, that's where they came from. The Caucasians, right? They came out of the tribes of Levites from the African. That's what Dr. YACOB, he was a Levite. See, so that's their people. Caucasians are their people. That's a grafted version of them, a weak version. That's their people. That's still their people. Came out of their tribe. They come out of our tribe. Came out of their tribe. You say, well, Dr. YACOB, he was in Asia. He might have been in Arabia, but it was Levites, right? He's a Levite, and those came from. So he came from. Those are his people. So eventually, right, during this period of time, right, some of the Levites would go in and they would intermingle with the women, the Mongoloid. They couldn't resist them, right? And would they produce, right, the Japanese, which was more intelligent. They raised the intelligence level up. They still had Mongoloid characteristics, right? But they raised the intelligence level up. That's the Japanese. They're original people. See? But they still had an unstable gene. Still, because remember, they got unstable. They still had an unstable gene. They're original, but they have unstable genes. Their gene pool is still unstable. See? That means, you know, Mongoloids children can still pop up. Because you couldn't tell. That's why right now you see Mongoloids pop up in almost every race there is on the planet, but they all look the same. See, they all look like Mongols. So that's what happened. So now you got the Japanese during this period of time, this 2,000-year period of time, right? Okay. Then also, the Chinese are produced during this period of time. Who are the Chinese? Well, Chinese are a hybrid of the Japanese and the Mongols because the Japanese came from being intermingling with the Levites. That's how they came about. So, let me see something right quick here. And so what's happening here is that the Chinese came from the intermingling of the Japanese and the Mongols. So they're like mixed, they're even more unstable. See, that's how they came about. So now you got the Japanese, the Chinese, and the Mongols. See? That's why the angel calls them death. Why do they call them death? Because they're the death of humanity. Because they're just a bridge between the two and they're very unstable. And if we allow that instability to permeate the human condition, it could destroy all of humanity. Because we could end up having everybody be Mongoloids. Because you put that instability factor, you don't know how it's going to play out. So that's what happened. Just during that 2,000-year period while they're in the caves of Europe, Europeans. So now you got the Japanese, you got Chinese, and you got Mongoloids. And that includes all the other ones, Vietnamese and all of them, they're in that. Okay? But these are the main ones. Okay, so now the 2,000-year period is over. Can't keep restrained any longer. So what happens is that this person called Musa, he's a Levite. Okay, what happens is they start going into, he's leading them. He with his people. He didn't go in there by himself. He brought his people in there, right? Because it's time to give them, right? It's time to give them, put them, time to take charge. That was the whole idea. So he goes in there, he takes people with him, and what they do is they can't civilize those Caucasians. They're just, it's totally, right? I mean, they totally cave. I mean, they're totally wild. Can't civilize them. So what they do is they start intermingling with them, putting their seed in them, and they produce what we call now the Jews. The people they call Jews, they're not Jews, and the original people are not Jews either. See, that's what you have to understand in Scripture. I know that people think that, but they're wrong, right? So that produces what the real Jews are. See, so Moses go out there, and his people, and so they produce these people, and so those people, right? They was able to civilize them and take them out of Europe. That was the first exodus out of Europe. See, because now they could live. They was qualified to live amongst the civilized people, basic, the basic civilization, and he gave them the Torah, that so-called Old Testament. That was their scripture. Tell them how to be civilized. They had to be taught to be civilized. See, we're civilized by nature, right? But we don't have the energy to maintain it. So that's what happened. So he brought them out. That was the first exodus out of Europe. See, that happened 4,000 years ago. So those are original people. They're the modern day Shia, or the Persians and Syrians. So I'm just leaving Jews there, right? But I'm explaining it. That's who they are. See, that was 4,000 years ago. So these, what we call the Persians and Syrians, right? They were darker back then than they are now, right? But that would happen. That's what happened 4,000 years ago. But as a result of that, what happens is, so let me go back here for a second. You still got this race mixing, if you will, right? Now, the Orientals, they're filled out to the structure we see in the Injil. They fill out that structure, right? But now, we see how the Jews came about by mixing with the Levites, right? Now, the Levites, there was 3 parts of their tribe, there's 6 parts of their tribe. 3 parts remained loyal to Dr. SHABAZZ, because Dr. YACOB did the rebellion. But all these tribes was loyal to the main tribe, the tribe of SHABAZZ. That's the tribe of Allah. That's the main tribe. They was loyal. But Dr. YACOB took, and he wanted to get revenge, and so he took 3 of the tribes with him, right? But 3 of the tribes remained loyal. And that's the ones where we see led by this person called Jesus and Moses and Elijah. They remained loyal. The other ones didn't. They followed Dr. YACOB. Okay? So you got this mixing now, and the same process here. So what happens is now you have the Levites, right? Now they start mixing, right, with the I showed where they was mixing with the Caucasians, right? That's how the Jews came about. But it's also expand their tribes too. Because on the maternal side, right, see, that would be the lower two tribes of the Levites. But on the paternal side would be the Jews at the bottom. I'm not going to go a lot of detail about that, but if you think about it, you understand what I'm talking about. So that's how these tribes developed. Okay? So I'm trying to fill out this key for you. Without going into a lot of detail. So how they got filled out. So now you have six parts to the tribe of Levites, and because all this race mixing going on during this period of time between the tribes. So that's what you end up having. Tribe of SHABAZZ, okay, now you got 6 tribes, broken up into 6 tribes. Levites broken up into 6 tribes. Hindus, they're still just one tribe. See, Caucasians, they're only 2, they're just 4 tribes. I mean, Hindus, there's still 2 tribes, 2 parts to it, right? See? But the Caucasian, they're 4 tribes, broken into 4 tribes. The Orientals, there's 6 tribes, right? And the Levites, right, there's 6 tribes. So that's what's expanding. But they're mixed. That's the point here. See, they're mixed. So in other words, each one of these tribes, right, got mixture of other tribes in it. Okay? So then, this is again during this period after they come out 2,000 years, right? Then Hindus are filled out. They're mixing. See? They're mixing. But see, the tribe of SHABAZZ, at this point in time, right, they're broken up. They're the weakest tribe now. So they're broken up. Because they was the strongest tribe, but they suffer energy deprivation more than other tribes because they're the most sophisticated, right? The most complex. So they require more energy to maintain themselves. So they're suffering energy deprivation quicker than the other ones. They will suffer the worst. Africa, the Levites will be the next, followed by the Hindus, right? That's the way it works. So anyway, here you go. Now, the Hindus, they're divided into 6 tribes too now. This is doing between the 4,000 years ago and 2,000 years ago. That's these empires start coming about. Ancient Babylon and Syria, all these different Rome, ancient Rome, because as the Jews, they have a strong civilization going, but now the Caucasians, they're coming out of Europe. See, first the Jews came out. They come out. See, because they started to benefit from the civilization of the Jews and other people. They start coming out, and they form the Roman Empire. See, and they're the most powerful, the other ones, right? Because, right, the Jews, they're original, but these are totally, that's YACOB's creation. But at the same time, during this period of time, the Chinese, they're more powerful. They're more powerful than the Caucasians. Because they require less energy than even the Caucasians do. But their IQ is lower. See? So they can be dominated. Their IQ is lower. See? But their civilization started rising during this period of time also. The Ming Dynasty, all these civilizations, all the Chinese civilizations, they started rising during this time also between 4,000 and 2,000 years ago. And during that also time, right, this is the Levites, right, that's when Egypt comes out of the Egyptians, they're Levites. So that's when those, and the Hindus, all those, that's when those civilizations, during this period of time, 4,000 years, 2,000, those civilizations came in, start rising. All these civilizations start coming into being. These new civilizations. right? It's like a new world order. Doing this between 4,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago. It began because what's driving this? That's Moses going and bringing out the Jews, right? And they're starting to dominate, and their influence all these other civilizations, right? And all these other civilizations are rising during this period of time. Okay. So here, like I said, I mean, you notice it's the Persian Empire here, right? Ancient Babylon, right? Assyria. And then you got the Egyptian, right? Empire. All these empires. And they was influenced, just like now, they were influenced by the rise, by the Jewish Empire, which was actually Persia. See? That was actually Persia, really. That was actually Persia. What we call Persia now, Iran. So it was influenced by Persia. So that's what's happening here. Okay, so now you got the Egyptian power, the Egyptian, all these different civilizations going on here. That's between 4,000, 2,000 years ago. This keeps going until you get to 2,000 years ago. So what happened 2,000 years ago? 2,000 years ago, there comes Prophet Jesus. See, where does he go? He goes to the Jews. But it's not the Jews that they tell you in the Bible, all that kind of stuff. It's the Jews in the Bible, but it's not what these people tell you. He went to the Persians. There was his disciples. Those was his disciples. See, they were darkening on now. Pictures that really give a good explanation. They were darkening, but he went to the Persians. They were his disciples. That's why it says to the churches which are in Asia. It tells you that in the Injil. To the churches which are in Asia, not in Europe. So he went there. Those are his disciples. He raised them. See, this is where the angel picks up at. He raised them. That's why I call them the witnesses, right? The witnesses of Jesus. It says that in chapter 11. That's why it says that. Okay. So he goes to them. But he starts a process, and this is the process, right, that was tricked, this process set by the scientists, right, to start this atom bomb process, the special atom bomb they set up, the special atom bomb they set up, right, that was to fulfill the Abrahamic covenant that was made 50,000 years, that was to ensure, the guarantee that we rise back to top of civilization. Because SHABAZZ wasn't taking any chances. Wasn't taking any chances that they would renege and try to destroy us while we were weak. Right? So they got together, set this process up, right? This special atom bomb, ATT, atomic bomb, special one they set up, because that's what pressure is. Pressure is words. That's what each scripture is atomic, because they sent one person. They didn't send one person. With an atomic bomb, it changed our reality. More powerful than any weapon they have, changes reality. It's one person. Don't send an army. One person with scripture. That scripture, thought has changed everything. Everything you see is a result of thought, right? Mathematics. So they sent one person with more powerful thought, because thought is pressure. Pressure is force. Greater pressure pushes out weaker pressure. So they said this was this powerful bomb called the gospel, or you call the New Testament. So they sent them, right? So that started, because it's going to trigger this. So this bomb is a 4-stage bomb, right? Because it's like with a fusion bomb, it takes one bomb, it ignites, and it puts so much pressure that then it ignites a bomb that's inside of it that's even more powerful. And that ignites another bomb inside that's even more powerful. See, with the KV, they have a thermonuclear bomb, only has 2 phases to it. The fission bomb explodes, ignites the fusion bomb, which is very powerful. But we have a 4-stage bomb. And that's what this supposed to, and so this kicked it off. Prophet Jesus came, gave them the so-called New Testament, right? Those disciples, and that was he went to. He went to the Jews, but the Jews are not the people they call the Jews. That's why I say people say the Jews are not, but synagogue of Satan, because those people ain't Jews, right? It was the Iranians, them the ones that he went to, those disciples. So that kicked off the process 2,000 years ago. That kicked off the process. So it ignited. And what it did, it blew away a lot of other civilizations. It blew them away. It changed the whole map for 500 years. All these other civilizations was in decline. Egypt, all of them, was in decline. See? But this came, right? This is during the time the Europeans got a hold to it. They set up the Pope. See? They set up the Pope. So for 500 years, they ruled under the Pope. They took the scripture, cut across, they corrupted it, right? But still, they still use that scripture, and they ruled, right, as tyrants for 500 years. That was the Pope. See? He went to the Jews, but it was the Gentiles that took it. That's what it said. The Gentiles took it and ran with it. Who's the Gentiles? That's the Caucasians. They took and ran with it. They set up the Pope, right? And the cross. There wasn't any cross where Jesus came. They set up the cross and they ran with it. For 500 years, the Pope was in charge. See? But this was the time of Adam. This was the time of Adam. Because 500 years, this is the beginning of Adam when it says, let us make, right, a new ruler in the earth. The earth represents European countries, a new ruler. This is the fulfillment of the whole idea, right, about YACOB's creation. Because remember, the whole person was making them because they're supposed to rule. To rule the planet, right? So now this process is going. And that's the beginning of Adam, who's also called Magog, 500 years ago. So it took 500 years to produce the finished Adam. It took 500 years to complete Adam's making. This during the 500-year period. See? And who's Adam? Adam was made from dusty earth. Earth represents European countries. So these are the riffraff and everything that came out of Europe. Because Britain, Adam is the British. And they are the riffraff, the criminals, the exiles, the immigrants out of Europe. They were escaping the church and everything else. And they were forced out of Europe and to British Isles. British Isles is not Europe, but they're coast off of Europe. The islands off of Europe. That's why they call them British Isles. That's where Adam came from, the dust of the earth. See? No, that's what it meant, the dust, the criminals, the whatever, right? And so it took 5 years to complete that. From 2000, starting from 2000 point, it took 500 years to complete Adam's making, right? Okay. Then it says, once Adam was complete, he was put to sleep, a deep sleep in the grave. So he was put to deep sleep for 1,000 years to bring Eve about. So he put in deep sleep for 1,000 years. So that's what's happening here. Because deep sleep, right, was the rise. This gets back in chapter 20, the rise of Islamic empire. That's Prophet Muhammad. He came with a atomic bomb. That's the next phase. He came with a atomic bomb called atomic bomb, ATTOMIC. He got an atomic bomb called the Quran, which is more powerful. Because the first one that Jesus came with, it was, remember that book was sealed. But he came with the sealed version. That's what he gave, right, to the Jews. He gave the sealed version. See? Because there was a bomb hid in there. The unsealed version was another explosion. It's like when you have a fission bomb, you got a bomb inside of it. So there's a bomb inside of that, right? So here comes the Quran. Bam. So it takes, and this was an effort to slow them down some more because they was getting Magog was getting too powerful. They slow them down. That's why I call it Quran of mercy. So they was pushed in 2,000 years, right? So the Islamic Empire slowed them down for 1,000 years. At that time, they raised the original nation and the Arabs. That's the Hindus was Arab. They're part of the Asian nation, but right, but they, because that's where he went. They was worshiping Hinduism. Prophet Muhammad came. He had to clean them up. That's the Arabs. See, so he raised them. He also raised us. The Arabs also Ishmael, right? Because they wasn't Abraham's legitimate son, right? Son by son by his maid, right? But Isaac was by Sarah, his legitimate wife. So we was living in Africa, right? They was living in the Middle East. That's what it said, right? And so he raised both. So that's what you see here. He raised both. And for 1,000 years, they kept the Europeans. That's what it says. Adam was put to sleep, deep sleep. So they was kept, and the Europeans bottled up for 1,000 years. See, well, they wouldn't be causing all kinds of mischief. That's what it said. Dal Quran. That's his whole purpose. He took and blocked them up for 1,000 years. They said they would be let loose. And then when they let loose, they call them Gog and Magog. That's who they are. Gog and Magog make mischief in the land. That's Adam. Adam make mischief, shed blood. I don't know why Sunnis can't connect this together, but that's another story. So that's what happened there. So it was locked up. So that's what Islamic Empire kept them locked up for 1,000 years. See, that's phase 2 of the explosion. First was the so-called Old New Testament. Second was the Quran. Phase 2 of the explosion. See, both changed reality. The first one changed the reality of the region, right? The Syrians, but the second one, right? It changed the reality even greater, because the other one extended mostly around in the Middle East area, right? The second one extended into Africa and to Europe, right? And even some to Asia. That's what the Quran did, right? Okay. Then after 500 years, watch closely. We see Adam down there. After 500 years, right? That puts you at about 500 years ago, right? That's when the Renaissance, when Europeans broke out, they was able to defeat Islam. They broke out, called the Renaissance, and that's when they broke out their captivity out of the abyss, what they call in chapter 20. They was thrown into the abyss. They broke out and they covered the whole world, just like it says in chapter 20. Gog and Magog. Who is Magog? Who's God? Gog is Eve. That's when Eve came in. After 1,000 years, Eve came out of the side of Adam. There you go. Eve came out. That's America. Came out of the side of Adam. Because Eve, that's where Eve came from the British Empire. Came from the British Empire. Right? And then said the womb was severed. That means then they had a revolution and they became independent. That's where America came from. 500 years ago. There was colonies of Britain. That's what happened there. Okay, so, but the Renaissance, the difference was they had mathematical Christianity. This was by the scientists. This was the scientists, this the Caucasian scientists led by Newton and the like. Galileo and those people, right? They applied mathematics to Christianity. See? That was the next explosion, which that was even more powerful than the Islamic explosion because it covered the whole world. The British Empire, the sun never sets on the British Empire, covered the whole world. That's phase 3 of the explosion. Phase 3, the first one was Prophet Jesus, second was Prophet Muhammad, and then the third one, mathematical Christianity. See, they separated church and state. They kept Christianity, but they applied mathematics to it. So now, boom, they covered the whole world. It's a bigger explosion than the other two, and they pushed the other two aside. That's what happened. See, they come over here, the pilgrims, they come over here, and they took over. And then, about approximately 100 years ago, 80 some years ago, right? Well, a little over 100 years ago, actually. Well, no, about somewhere around there, right? Early part of the last century, right? Farad comes along, right? He comes along, right? Because he's the one that's going to enforce the covenant, Abrahamic covenant. He's the one that enforced it. That's in Genesis. God came, he came here to enforce it. To remind us of it and enforce it, except Elijah, right? But he came primarily, right, for the Levites, because Elijah's Levite. So he raised up the Levites. So he says Suleiman would raise up Lazarus. Suleiman would raise up Lazarus. See, Suleiman would raise up Lazarus, but the widow's son or the Levites, that would be Elijah's job to do. So he raised up Elijah. But he set Elijah up and the Levites, right? And that's what the so-called Nation of Islam. That's the Levites. So he came and he raised up Elijah, and the whole purpose is he started teaching them math, because math was taken away from us. See, and the Levites, that's how the Nation of Islam got part of our tribe, because when they came and started bringing us over here, they brought Africans too. They brought tribe of SHABAZZ and tribe of Levites. See, so they got mixed in with us. So Farad came primarily to prepare them for the explosion that's going to take place when Suleiman comes along and makes that final explosion. He prepared them. See, and he said Elijah came, right, and he set Elijah up to get them prepared for that explosion, so they don't be destroyed by that explosion. That's the whole purpose of that. Not just to remind us, because he's going to force it, he's going to take us out of here, but it's also to protect the Levites, because they have to get a reminder also, because they stay loyal. See, Jesus and Moses and Elijah stayed loyal. That's why he said Elijah Levite, right? To get those Levites is still loyal. That's what that's all about. Then, 1948, this is time of Suleiman, because it tells you a star will rise in the east. That means he'll be born in the west. And they call it Antichrist because they'll be the same age. There's a lot of wisdom behind that. I'm not going to the mathematics of it, but that's what happened there. So in other words, so at 1948, right, that'll be the conception, because that's how you would know Suleiman was conceived, because the star would rise in the east. That will let you know. So they'd be exactly the same age from conception point, 1948. So if you want to find Suleiman, find someone that was conceived in 1948, right? So his birthday would be somewhere around January, right, 49. But that's what happened. That's what happened there. So this was the rise of false Israel. There's a whole lot behind that, but I'm not going into all the details. I said, this is not about getting into a lot of details here. Just trying to give you the basic history. So that's what happened there. Okay. And then 1975, Elijah's completed his mission to prepare the Levites. That's his mission, to prepare the Levites for this explosion that's going to take place. See, they said he would be one that would baptize or initiate Suleiman, because he's John the Baptist. Suleiman came to him, right? And he said he didn't want to do this. He wasn't worthy to do it. But Suleiman, Jesus insisted. So that's sure they would be during the same period of time. See? And Jesus didn't want any of his followers because they're Levites. Not that there's anything wrong with them, but he came to raise up Lazarus. It's Elijah Muhammad's job to raise up Levites. So this is what happened here. So he departs, right? He leaves a Levite in charge. But Farrakhan's a Levite on his mother's side, maternal side. But he's Caucasian on his father's side. See? So he wasn't real. He was a demon. Okay? So after Elijah departs, right? When he departs, the Nation of Islam, right, is left headless. That's what I mean. He wasn't cut off. His organization was headless because Elijah left. So with no leadership, right? With no leadership, they fell. That's the falling away they talk about in the Son of Perdition, the falling away. See? And then the man of sin will be revealed. 1977, here comes Farrakhan back. He already betrayed the messenger. He already talked against him. He destroyed the Nation of Islam, him and Wallace, right? He don't take accountability for it. That's what happened. So then in 1977, he comes back. He's the Son of Perdition. 1977. He said he'd be setting Elijah's seat. See, but he didn't get what Elijah had because he's Elias. He said he wanted a double portion of what Elijah Muhammad had, right? What did Elijah have? Elijah had, he had the wheat and the chaff. Remember he said, don't pull the chaff. Somebody sowed the wheat among the weeds among the chaff, or weeds among the wheat. So Elijah Muhammad ministers to both. He said, no, minister to both of them. See, he had both. The Levite, he had both. Right? See? So when he goes, Elijah went both, but he said he'd only get it if he witnessed. That's another story. I'm going to go into it. He didn't get it. See? So he didn't get what he asked for. That's Elias. Remember, Elias was a musician too, wasn't he? So that's the Son of Perdition. He reigned for 42 years. 1977, some people 1970 anyway. That would put you into 2019, 2020. His time is over. In fact, the word is he's hiding. Nobody knows where he is or what condition he's in. That's what I'm hearing. Doesn't matter. It might as well be. Okay, so. Then, in 1990, see, that's when Suleiman said, let me back up here. I missed that. See right here? No, look at the sun. Look where it says Eve and Adam, right? That's what 48. That's what both comes in. The sun arises there, and Satan both come in at the same time. So make sure you can see that. Now, 1990, right? That's when the Europeans move into the Middle East. That's because what happens? That's the year that Suleiman breaks the seals. So all this stuff happening now. Now they start moving to the Middle East. See, the war starts building up and everything because now the covenant starts being filled. People reneging. All this pressure builds up. Everybody's trying to control the Middle East now. While all the nations trying to control the Middle East, they're trying to keep us from getting it because they don't want us to get back on it. They promised. That was the deal they made. We're supposed to get back on the throne. They don't want it. Especially those that did evil to us. They're afraid that we get back in. That there's gonna be some revenge. There's gonna be some revenge. So everybody's trying to take control of the Middle East now. You got false Israel trying to take care of it, right? You're trying to get the Arabs trying to. They said they got control of theirs, right? You got America trying. Everybody's trying to get control of the Middle East. Our land is our land. See, and trying to get rid of us at the same time. So that's when the seals were broken, 1990. That same time that America moves into the Middle East, Eve, Adam, and Satan, they moved to the Middle East and pushed the Jews out. The Jews are the Iranians and the Syrians. They pushed them out, right? Not push them out, but they assumed their power because now they're the power brokers in the Middle East now. Then comes 2008 comes Obama. Who's Obama? I'm not going into a lot of details. I'm definitely not got because this gets too complicated. He comes on the scene, right? See, he's the one riding that white horse. See, Levi's there, and then that's that white horse. See, one was on the white horse, one was the red horse. See the red horse in there, and the black horse, then the greenish yellow. Greenish yellow is really greenish yellow, not pale. Right? So he's riding that horse. That's Obama. He's ruling a European country. So what black person, African person, see, he's a Levite also. He's the incarnation of Dr. Yacob. He wants to fulfill Dr. Yacob's mission. That's why I call him in the angel, right? In the angel in chapter in 1, they say I'm the first and last, I'm Alpha. That means he's the first ruler and the last ruler, right, of his creation. That's what it's talking about, right? Anyway, this 2000 he come on the scene, right? But at the same time, that's when Suleiman goes to the Nation of Islam and try to talk to them, but he's rejected. During that same period of time, he goes to them, try to talk to them, they reject him. And then 2015, on Obama's way out, right, he makes a deal with Iran. That's the real Jews. He makes a deal with them called the JCPOA, right? Where it says in chapter 11, they'll be on the foot of the nations. They'll be trampled down the foot of the nations for 3.5 years. See? So that would be in 2015. So they're foot of the nations means they're under control of the UN. They're under control of the UN at this period of time. Right? UN represents all the nations. That's what it's talking about. So that agreement was made at that period of time. See? So all this starts back from 50,000 years ago, right? So I'm going to bring you up to date. And then the agreement was broken by Mr. Trump 3.5 years later. So they've been on that stitch for 3.5 years, 42 months, right? And that's when the agreement was broken. And so after that, right, Trump broke the agreement in 2018, right? And so therefore they wasn't underfooted. So they start moving up and say 2 years for them to move up, right? Which would put you right between 2018 to 2020. And said during that period of time they would have plagues. They would plague as often as they want to. That's that plague. The angel telling us that Farah said, I will send this plague 2016 to 1619 to 2019, right? That's the 40 years they're talking about Abrahamic covenant. That's the 40 years, right? And 2020 would be a plague that would kill the firstborn as the elderly. It says, Farah said he would do it. It says, God said he would do it. That's Farah, right? And it says, the angel tells that he would use the Shia to do it because they were afflicted. They had the power to afflict with plagues off their will during this period of time. And that's what happened. So the plague came from, right? That brings you up to where we are right now, brothers and sisters. So 50,000 years of history up to where we are right now. That's what that's all about. 50,000 years of history brings it right now. So hope that's helpful to you, brothers and sisters. Try to make it clear. And this confirms, this confirms what the angel says. It's connected up with what Farah was saying. His history. So hope you understand. Okay. And then so we go this brief thing right here, real quick, right? I was talking about the fission bomb, their bomb. See, our bomb is more powerful. They had this so-called fission bomb. I think, well, it doesn't change reality. It blows up a lot of stuff. That fission bomb, and inside a fusion bomb, that's called thermonuclear bomb. The fission bomb ignites the fusion bomb. Fusion bomb is more powerful, right? See? So on the bottom left, you see uranium. That's what they use for the fission bomb. On the right, you see hydrogen, what they use for the fusion bomb. Because one, you tear an atom apart, that's fission. The other, you force the atom together, that's fusion. That's the bomb. That's the bomb. See? That the signs are set, and it was ignited first by Prophet Jesus 2,000 years ago. See? That's the first stage. He blew away the Roman Empire. That's the first explosion. That blew away with that, with the so-called New Testament, right? See? And brought into that was this period that brought into It's the 500 years that the Pope ruled. Okay? Then the second explosion, the Quran, that blew away the Pope's empire. See? And this lasts, the Pope's empire lasts 500 years. This one lasts for 1,000 years. Then comes mathematical Christianity. The first one was the sealed Bible, right? This was also sealed, but it's mathematics, put mathematics to it. That's the scientist, so-called Renaissance. That's 500 years ago, right? This one kicked off, this third phase, this one kicked off 500 years ago, right? This Magog, British Empire, right? So that blew away what? The Islamic Empire. Blew that one away. And the Pope away too, blew all those empires away. And then, bam, this one had 2 phases to it. See, this explosion was so powerful, it had 2 phases. This is still part of Gog and Magog. Still part of 500 years, but it had 2 phases. The British Empire, right, and then the American Empire. 2 phases. One explosion, but 2 phases. Boom, boom, it's so powerful. You had to have 2 phases. This book was so powerful, you had to have 2. See? Now, if you go back in the middle here, let's go back a little bit. We're right in the middle, Angel. We're in the middle of all of this. That's where it's placed, right in the middle of all this explosion, because we're the ones going to be the final explosion. See, all this pressure is going to put all this. We've been on all this pressure for 5 years. On more pressure than any nation ever been under, right? All this pressure, right? Because all this pressure is going to make us at night. It's going to produce Suleiman, and Suleiman is going to be so powerful enough to break those seals, because you had to put that pressure, right, to produce. Because when you put pressure on a nation, it makes it forces to produce the strongest, right? So they had to put all that pressure enough to produce Suleiman. Because Suleiman would be the only one that could break those seals. You need somebody that powerful enough, right, to be able to break those seals, ignite that final explosion. When you put a nation under pressure, it forces them to produce the strongest. See? And so here we go. Remember, Suleiman's already igniting. He started 1990. He started igniting, right? That's when he started igniting the Injil. See, bam. This is what they're trying to stop. They're trying to stop this nation from being born. They're trying to stop. This is the final book. This is what the Injil will bring about. A new paradise, a paradise. Change the whole world, a paradise. That's what the Injil. That's what they're trying to stop. But that's what all these explosions, starting from Jesus, the whole idea is to produce powerful enough explosion to cause this to happen. To produce Suleiman will explode the Injil, and Injil will blow away everything, and this will be the new reality, a king that will last forever. That's what they're trying to stop. Where we put our queen, our gods, back on top of civilization. All the nations will, because she suffered more than anybody. Because we didn't protect her, and we didn't. But we couldn't. See, because she went through that process with us, and we love her for it. See, she stuck with us. See, it's our duty to protect her. We couldn't. But we had to bring her with us so we could survive. So now we have to repay her and put her back on top of, see how beautiful she is? We're going to put her back on top of civilization where she belongs. See? No more being abused or anything. And all these clowns are pointing at fingers at these sisters. They better be careful, they might lose their fingers. That's the end, brothers and sisters. Hope it's been informative. So I've been working this a long time. Right? Hope you understand. I'm trying to give you the history as it conforms to what Farad was teaching. See, because his history is accurate. But what I've been trying to do is take the Bible, the Injil, to confirm it. Hope you understand, brothers and sisters. It's been Assalamu alaikum.